Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the UX world, where I still feel as though I've got a cold. I don't know what's going on, and I hope it's not coronavirus as I said last week, but I seem to have had this cold now for about 3 weeks. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, this episode is with Tim McElreath of the Food Network. I don't know if you've used the Food Network skill, and if you haven't, you should check it out. You're going to learn a hell of a lot about it in this episode, because today we're talking about live broadcasting through Alexa and the whole shebang to do with what's going on with the Food Network and Amazon Alexa, who are building bespoke and specific technology in conjunction with the work that the Food Network are doing to enable live broadcasts through Alexa. We're going to talk about the whole thing, how the whole process works from end to end. You're going to learn a hell of a lot. I cannot wait to jump into this episode. But before we do that, I'd like to give a shout out to Sparks. The Sparks app is a podcast app. It's in beta right now, and the chaps at The Next Layer who created the app are looking for some feedback. Essentially what it does is it lets you make sparks or notes as you're listening to the podcast episode that you're listening to. You know what it's like when you're out and about, or whatever you're doing, you've got your headphones in and you're listening to a podcast like the UX World, and you come across a great insight that gets you thinking, gets your brain jumping. You know that moment when you zone out of a podcast and you start thinking of something, and then you zone back into the podcast and that thought is then gone forever? Well, not anymore, because with the Sparks app, you can make a spark, which is a capture of that thought, of that note, and you can bookmark it at the exact point in time on the podcast where you had it. And all of the sparks that you make for one podcast episode are all saved against that podcast episode and time-stamped as well. So next time you want to think about whatever it was that you were thinking about when you were listening to the UX World, you can go back to the Sparks app, back to the episode, find the note, the thought that you were thinking of, and then carry on listening at that point in time, from that point in time to the podcast episode. It's fantastic. The guys are looking for some feedback, so please do check out sparksapp.io/VUX. Download it, give it a go. As I said, it's in beta, so you'll probably need to download Autopilot on your phone to get it installed. But please check it out, and please reach out to the guys and give them your feedback, because they're looking for innovative early adopters who are at the front edge of technology and who also listen to podcasts. And if that sounds like you, which I'm thinking it probably does, then do check that out. It's sparksapp.io/VUX. Now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this is Tim McElreath of the Food Network on VUX World.
VUX World. VUX World. VUX World. VUX World. Branding with the big faces. I love listening to it.
Kane Sims.
Kane Sims, the one and only. Britain's finest, Mr. Kane Sims. Dustin Coates.
I like it when you guys are together and talking about voice.
Without further ado, welcome to the show.
Tim, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad that we're doing this because you're up to some absolutely amazing stuff at the Food Network. Do you want to give us a bit of a sort of overview firstly in terms of like who you are and what you're up to in terms of the voice activity in at the Food Network?
Oh, sure, Kane. And thanks for having me on. I've been a big fan of the podcast for a long time. So I'm Tim McElreath. Right now I'm Director of Engineering for Emerging Platforms at Discovery, and specifically for Food Network, which is known primarily as being a linear TV brand for food, education, and entertainment. I've been working in the voice space for about 4 years now. We started a partnership with both Amazon and Google pretty early on in 2016 to start sort of kicking the tires on voice interfaces and building out experiences for voice and multimodal. And we've been doing that for quite a while as kind of a siloed team. But this year, or starting in April of 2019, we joined a project to really rebrand and rethink what Food Network is across all of our platforms. So instead of just being a linear television brand based on advertisement with some digital assets on web and mobile, we've decided to make Food Network a kind of all-encompassing multi-platform culinary entertainment and education brand. And by that, I mean, we're partnering with Amazon to deliver all of our content on Fire TV, iOS and Android, and specifically on Alexa through Echo Show devices. To do this, we're building out new content types. So besides the episodic television and the digital recipes, we're creating step-by-step video cooking classes, which are video demonstrations on how to make single meals or single techniques that have metadata and step-by-step, so you can ask for ingredients and directions as you're going along. So we have a ton of on-demand cooking classes. We're also doing, which is new for us, live broadcast cooking demonstrations. When we rolled out the application in October, we were doing about 4 a day out of our New York and LA offices. Right now, we've scaled up to 10 a day. And I noticed tonight that we have a big event coming up. Guy Fieri is going to be doing a pre-Super Bowl game day cooking demonstration with four other chefs this evening. So this is really a new content type for us because we normally don't do a lot of live broadcasting. We are doing this across all platforms, and on top of that, we're essentially building out what our CEO David Zaslav calls the Peloton of cooking. We are incorporating live Q&A along with the live broadcast. So on our mobile and connected TV platforms, you can actually go into a Q&A, type in a question, a moderator will forward it to the talent on air, and then they will answer you on air. So this is something that we now have on our mobile connected TV. We're working with Amazon to see how we can bring that experience over to Echo Show, so that if you're cooking along with a demonstration and you have a question, you can just go to your Alexa device, ask the question using your voice, and then within a couple of minutes, a moderator will forward it to them, and you'll get an answer by the talent on air. I can't wait till we get that working. It's going to be an outstanding experience.
So to get this straight in my head, then, so you've got one Alexa skill, and within that Alexa skill, you have recipes and step-by-step cooking instructions, as well as live broadcasted cooking experiences. Is there live broadcast stuff in the skill as well?
So one of the interesting things about our partnership in integrating our content on the Alexa platform is, given the number of content types we have, from episodic TV to text-based step-by-step recipes to video step-by-step to live broadcast, the breadth of what we're trying to bring to the platform is actually more than what we know of as a skill can really sustain. Just the idea of building out a language model in with a single skill that could navigate all of those content types would be a nightmare. I think it would be probably more than a single skill could handle. The other issue that we had when we first started developing with Amazon is how do we start connecting the different content types? So for episodic TV, we used the VSK to build out a video skill. For our recipe experience, we're doing content ingestion that allows the first-party recipe experience to handle the actual navigation of the recipe, because there are a lot of benefits to using the first-party recipe module on Alexa. It allows for an easy return to the recipe if you have to pause. Say, for example, you put something in the oven for 20 minutes. It also allows you to do things like play music on Spotify while you're interacting with the recipe. And it also doesn't rely on that request-response model that a skill needs to implement. In other words, every time a response comes back, you have to respond back with a question within 8 seconds. You get a reprompt. And then if you don't respond, the skill shuts down, which is really not a way that you can integrate with a longer-term utility like a recipe. Mm-hmm. So that's a long way around to saying that we're actually implementing a hybrid approach with Amazon, in that some of it's going to be third-party development through the video skill, some of it's first-party content ingestion, and other parts are APIs where we provide curated content to Amazon to display on curated landing pages.
So the recipes are all being served first-party through Amazon Alexa, yeah?
Correct.
And the live broadcasting is something... So does the live broadcasting exist now, or is that something that's coming?
Live broadcasting exists. You can actually see our Right now on Echo Show devices, you can see the live schedule. If you ask for show me live cooking classes, that should bring you to the live schedule.
Okay. And that's a mixture of your own development plus some support from Amazon.
Well, this is API. This is metadata that we provide to Amazon via an API. Amazon is actually building out the platform capabilities to deliver live broadcasting content. It's actually one of the more exciting things that I think we've been doing that's going to benefit the platform as a whole.
Right.
We provide the API schedule and the live streaming URLs and the metadata for each of the live classes. Amazon will then display the schedule and then deliver that live broadcast.
Right. So they're now working on live broadcasting for everyone based on the work that you've been trying to do with them. Is that right?
Well, right now we're kind of the guinea pig. So there are still parts of this experience that we're working through making a good customer experience. One in particular is how do we design lobbies for live broadcast? For example, somebody comes up to our schedule 10 minutes before a live broadcast is set to begin. How do we deliver an experience that lets them know a countdown of how long it's going to be till it starts, and then automatically begins that broadcast when the time is right? Right now, the platform doesn't really have the ability to do that. We're working on that. We've kind of split the difference right now as we start the live broadcast 5 minutes prior to its actual beginning, and we show an overhead shot so that people won't miss the beginning or have to time it right. But it's still part of the experience that we're working through with Amazon to figure out what's the right experience for entering live broadcasts. And we're also looking to leverage this content type across some of our other brands. So some other Discovery brands, such as Eurosport, is also looking at how do they deliver live sporting broadcasts on Echo Show.
So how much of your work that you're doing at the moment then is internal stuff that you're working on purely with the resources that you have with the Food Network versus how much you work closely alongside Amazon to kind of like try and push this sort of stuff forward? Is this a total collaboration between the Food Network and Amazon, or is it you working away for a little while until you get to a point and then approaching Amazon to try and get something resolved? How's that kind of working?
It's leaning more toward total collaboration. There are some areas where we could work fairly independently. For example, on the VSK for delivering episodes, we build out most of that experience ourselves. But when we're talking about delivering live classes or building out new content types like the step-by-step video how-tos, that's working in collaboration with Amazon. One of our big challenges right now is how do we build out a experience that can act as a sort of a content curator for all of our types of content. The goal would be for somebody to go to an Echo Show device and say Open Food Network Kitchen, and then they can navigate easily to all different content types. So for example, if they're a fan of a particular chef, they can ask for content from a chef, and it can contain episodic videos, it can contain recipes, it can contain next upcoming live classes, and they can navigate to those sub-landing pages through that curated experience that would be managed by the brand itself. This is something that doesn't really exist yet, but we're working with Amazon to find out what the easiest way for a brand to start curating those experiences and delegating down to either other skills or first-party ingested data.
Was a live video something that the Food Network was moving in that direction already, and you had a strong voice presence and you wanted to combine the two, or did voice help drive the decision to focus a lot more on live video?
I think voice has really helped drive a lot of our product direction here. I remember when Discovery purchased Food Network and Scripps Networks, and this was back in March of 2018. David Zaslav, who's our CEO, was on CNN giving an interview upstairs at the kitchen on the day that we actually signed the deal. And he specifically said that their goal was to own the kitchen with Food Network, with Amazon and Alexa, or with Samsung and Google using their voice product, which was both delightful and terrifying to our team, because we knew that something was going to come down the pike pretty soon. But it did show that at very high levels in the company, it was recognized that these voice multimodal conversational platforms were going to be major players in how we delivered digital direct-to-consumer products.
How did you make that happen? We're at a point right now where for a lot of people inside brands, they're fighting to get recognition for a voice. How were you able to convince the people up and down your company that voice was going to be important and strategic?
Well, we had some great partners in our product leadership. So we began developing for voice back in early 2016. There was a small team of myself and another developer and a product person building out, skills for Alexa and Google Assistant and doing a lot of experimentation. We were fortunate in that there was really no expectation that we were going to generate revenue through this yet or build up massive user engagement. But our product team realized that this was something that was picking up steam very quickly and was likely to be a major way of delivering content to people in the future. Our real goals for the team were to learn as much as possible and also maintain a good partner relationship with Amazon and Google as the technology changed. So we did experiments with, our first use case was really building a skill that allows people to watch TV and then ask Alexa and Google Assistant to save the recipes that they're watching at the moment and have it either emailed or saved to their recipe box so that they could go look at it later, which achieved the goal of connecting our content in a very basic way. The linear content on TV to our digital assets. If you think of before when you're watching TV and you see a recipe you want to make, you either have to do a Google search or you have to go to the website and look up the TV schedule and find out what the recipe is. By the time you do that, you've gotten most of your customers have dropped off and forgotten about it. So this was kind of a first step to figuring out how we could leverage voice to connect our various types of content together and build a single kind of ambient experience for our users. It was also recognized that by the time we started product ideation for Food Network Kitchen and thought of it as a coaching system, an education platform, and not just entertainment and digital recipes, but a way that people could use it as a tool to really improve their cooking overall. We saw the opportunity that's a perfect use case for having a smart screen on your kitchen counter that you can use hands-free and not only walk through recipes, but also ask questions and get information as you need it while you're cooking.
And when you've been on this journey, you sounds as though you've taken a similar kind of approach to what most organizations are doing, which is that start with something relatively small and contained, crawl before you walk, scale it up as you go. How have you approached that kind of journey? Because there's a lot of companies now that are just beginning this journey. And so given that you've been doing this for 4 years and you've kind of scaled what you've done as Amazon have kind of implemented various new capabilities and stuff, were you starting with, okay, here is our end goal of live broadcasting, and we'll talk about this kind of access everywhere, like all platforms integrated with each other and all that kind of stuff. Were you starting with that vision and then taking small steps to get there, or were you just taking like every 3 or 6 months as it comes and just saying, right, well, let's just do this, and then when we get there we'll review it, and then let's just do the next step? Like, were you starting with a vision and working towards it, or were you just taking it in like incremental steps?
It was very much more incremental for us. We kind of evolved our team as the platforms evolved. Back in 2016, once we developed the voice skills, for Alexa and Google Assistant. I think Alexa was in September and Google was in December of 2016. They immediately turned around and said, "That's great. We're going to put screens on it. Go do that now." That's when the planning for the release of the first version of Echo Show. Google was rolling out Google Assistant on phones. So, along with doing our own thinking about how we can best bring recipe content across voice, the platform was evolving so quickly that we were doing a lot of experimentation on just how to build experiences with our content on multimodal devices and what that means for cross-platform across voice. Like, how do we build something that can support a smart speaker and a smart screen and effectively give information that's appropriate for either? And how do we build systems that can not only support multi-platform on a single voice assistant, but across multiple voice assistants? And this was at the time when a lot of the tooling that we have now wasn't really available. So, we have started a really great ecosystem for voice and multimodal tools, everywhere from testing to generating visual templates, things like that. At the time, we were kind of scrambling to build those ourselves.
One of the things you touched on earlier that is quite interesting about what you and your team are doing is this ambient quality, because people aren't always in the kitchen when they're thinking about food. They might be, from the TV, like you mentioned, or they might be in the car, they might be on the bus. And so how does all of this work together to connect with your viewers, with your users, wherever they are?
It requires us to really think about how people most easily use technology to get the information they need in the situation they're in. So, for example, if you're, in a lean back experience watching Fire TV and you're watching a television program and you want to say, you see, okay, that recipe looks good, I want to save that for later. We want to make that path really easy. So you can either use the remote to pull up a carousel and save the recipe, and then that will be maintained in your save that you can easily access on a mobile device as you're out shopping. And then go later on, after you finish your shopping, you can just pull that up on your Echo Show and start making the recipe step by step using a voice assistant. And the idea is that all of the services that are available can be serviced on any device that we support, but we kind of lean into what's more appropriate for that particular device. For example, Fire TV is best situated for video viewing or long form viewing. Mobile is really more for quick information when you're out and about. Echo Show on a kitchen counter is really for when you need that utility, when you have specific questions while you're cooking, when you need to be able to navigate a recipe without having to touch a screen. One of the features that we're working on right now, and I think I can talk about this because it's been in our advertising that this is coming in 2020. We're going to be building out a 24/7 online help system for subscribers so that they can reach culinary experts with questions when they have it. And those are going to be context-sensitive questions. If you're in a recipe, we'll know that you're talking about a recipe. And basically, it'll be along with the live classes. We're kind of extending out that idea of being live to actually being able to contact Food Network as your kind of culinary support line.
And is that contacting a physical person, or is that you'll be including a shed load of different types of queries that can be answered within Alexa?
It's going to be actual people.
Okay.
Saying that, it is going to evolve into something that will be a hybrid solution. So you can imagine if we start off where most of the questions are answered by actual people, over time, we're going to get the same questions over and over again. We're going to be able to analyze the questions coming in into different categories and be able to create responses that maybe from a repository of knowledge, and then if something doesn't fit in with that repository of knowledge, it then delegates down to live people who can work through the problems, and then that again feeds our repository so that our automated system becomes smarter and smarter over time.
Because one of the things that I think we mentioned when we spoke was that for us, for example, if we're cooking something and we don't have a particular ingredient, let's say we're cooking like a chicken dish and the recipe says, and then mix some tarragon with some butter, and we're like, oh my God, we don't have any tarragon, what do we do? Like my wife will use my mother-in-law and just like give her a ring or something like that. But I won't necessarily do that. I'll be just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I'll either won't bother or make something up. So like having that is that the kind of option you mean for this like culinary help? Is like, what can I substitute tarragon for? Or like this recipe is supposed to have like chicken in it, but I've only got pork. Or is that still doable? Is it those kind of queries?
Right. So our goal is to be Kane's virtual mother-in-law. So if you give us her contact information, we'll be in touch and we'll start the marketing. But it is not only that, because I think what we want to bring as a value proposition to our users is not just that we can answer basic questions like how many cups in a quart, or can I replace this ingredient with that ingredient, but to support questions that may require a level of expertise and a level of trust, up until the point where maybe it's more of a subjective answer. We'd love to be able to support people who have questions like, I'm preparing a taco dinner for friends coming over tonight, and I just found out that one of them is bringing somebody who's vegan. How can I replace an ingredient so that I can give them a good meal as well? Or my kids eat the same thing every day. What's a good replacement for lunch for them? We'd love to be able to answer things that are not questions that can simply be answered algorithmically, but also it gives us some information about what's important to people when it comes to food, so that we can then turn around and start developing content that targets those questions. So if we find a lot of people are looking for ways to support friends and family who are vegetarian, we can start building out cooking classes that have mixed vegetarian and meat dishes. Or if we find a lot of it's about, feeding children and mixing up lunch options, we can start developing content around there. One of the interesting things about doing the product ideation for this is our goal really is to have it be openly conversational and not menu driven. So we don't want the experience to feel like a phone tree on any of the platforms. We'd like to have the experience be as easy as, you just press the help button and you ask a question using your voice, so that the question comes through as naturally as possible, so we can get as much information as to what our customers really want.
So that must cause you a bit of problems now then, because unless you're kind of like, super close partnership with Amazon gives you access to all of the transcripts, is that a challenge for you? Is that what you've just described there not necessarily being possible with the current technology, or is that not the case for close partners?
Yeah, right now that's not. It's not supported in skills, because as we know, you don't get that information. One of the reasons I'm kind of excited about our partnership with Amazon is we're working with them to find ways to extend what the platform can do. And, not just simply for Food Network, but what the platform can do for anybody who's developing for that platform. Be it live video, be it new content types like step-by-step, voice interaction over live, or voice help services. I would love to work with them to develop ways of extending what the platform can do. And I'm very encouraged by Amazon's enthusiasm for what we're trying to do, and their open-mindedness about how they can change the platform to accommodate it.
And is all of this stuff, because I remember you showed us the app, the Food Network app, which is really cool. And you have like a premium content model, don't you? Where I can't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it the live streaming is for premium subscribers?
Right. So we are on a subscription model. Everything that was free prior to rolling out Food Network Kitchen is still free. So the recipes and some of our how-to videos and the things you could get on the app and the web are still free. But the new content types we've created, which are the videos, video on-demand cooking classes and the live cooking classes, and some premium video recipes are available only to subscribers. And
is that, in terms of like the vision for the Food Network, fast forward 3, 4, 5 years, do you see that the net benefit of having live interactive content being? Do you envisage that side of things being a premium service, or do you envisage that being something for everyone?
I think it's going to be a mixture of the two. So right now our live broadcasts are premium, but we are actually opening up some of those live classes. A few, I think now we're on a cadence of 1 or 2 per week that are free for everyone. So I think we're going to have sort of the premium live experiences and a mixture of free tier live as well.
A lot of scope for that, isn't there? So I can imagine like it's almost as if, do you have in America, or even in Paris, Dustin, do you have like the equivalent of like Saturday Kitchen?
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Okay, so maybe there's just an equivalent. So on a Saturday morning, I think it's on like Channel 4, and there is, I think it's Tim Lovejoy, and there's another one with, can't remember the chap's name, James, I think it's James someone. Anyway, celebrity like chef type guy, and it's just like an all day Saturday or Sunday. It's either Saturday Kitchen it's called, and there's one called Sunday Brunch or something like that. And essentially it's just a cooking show, and it's just on kind of in the background, and sometimes it's good, and it's like just mornings where they'll just like they'll have celebrity guests on, and they'll kind of like show you recipes and all this kind of stuff, recommend wine and that. But it's almost like what you're describing with like live cooking. You can almost like envisage one where like you'll have like Gordon Ramsay doing like a special live cooking session, but it's almost like Saturday Kitchen or Sunday Brunch for those people who are familiar with that in the UK, like on steroids for like the digital first age, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And I think now we're focusing on cooking demonstrations, but there are a lot of different types of programming we can do once we start thinking about this. You could have Q&A, Ask Me Anything sessions with chefs. We could branch out. I'm talking off the top of my head now, but we could branch out into having live cooking competition shows. That's another very popular content type on our network. There could be live culinary events, food and wine festivals, things like that. So there are a lot of different broadcasting opportunities we could do. Broadcasting from within a restaurant, showing people what it's like inside of a busy restaurant kitchen. Live interviews, group chats, things like that. And then we layer on top of that Q&A aspect where viewers and customers can directly interact with the people on air.
Do you see live media as being something that is going to be broadly applicable in the voice space, or is this something quite specific to what you guys are doing?
Right now, we're thinking about it specifically for what we're doing. We're also starting to think about it for some of our other brands. I mentioned Eurosport. Specifically, we're thinking very deeply about how we're bringing live broadcasting there because it feels like a very natural fit. I think there's a lot of opportunity for it. I'm thinking about other products that are, for example, the Facebook portal with Alexa integration, which is in that same area where you're doing a live interaction with Alexa available at the same time. I think when we started out this process, we were taking a look at what made Peloton a very different product from other exercise equipment. And why the live class experience was catching on and really striking a chord with people. And I think when people are trying to improve their lives, there's a lot of applications being built now in the area of self-help. And I'd argue that Food Network Kitchen is, in a way, a self-help application as well. If your aspiration is to improve the way you cook, improve your comfort in the kitchen, the way you take care of your health, the way you take care of your family, and putting some structure around learning how to do that, those kind of experiences are enhanced with live interaction. Knowing that there are other people actually on that journey with you or sharing that experience with you, and that direct connection with the person who is coaching or teaching you. So I think I didn't really understand it completely until I started seeing the live broadcasts, and they are of a different quality than a pre-recorded video step by step. Especially when you get somebody who's really confident about doing the demonstration, and they're talking off the cuff, and they're pumping out information about the food they're cooking. They're telling stories about their lives. That's where we really shine, is that we have some great celebrity talent as well as internal culinary talent that they really do a great job in that live context.
You've got some similarities to, I think, companies who are just getting started now or early on in the journey, but then you've also got some differences because you've worked quite closely with Amazon. I think ultimately, fast forward a few years' time, and I think it'll be to everyone's benefit once they start rolling out this kind of capability more broadly. So you've got similarities in terms of the approach that you've taken and your journey so far, but the difference being is that you've been working closely with Amazon. So aside from the work that you've been doing with Amazon, not doing anything kind of with voice prior to 4 years ago, then going on this journey, what are some of either the surprises or the challenges or some of the core things that you've learned that you think that other companies just getting started today might be able to benefit from?
I think one of the things I had to relearn was how much the technology I'd been using up to that point had shaped the way I thought about what was possible in terms of interacting with digital interfaces. The first year of using an iPhone, it felt very unnatural, but now it feels like the most natural thing in the world. Really, because it's something we have just gotten used to, and we've kind of adapted ourselves to thinking that we need to adapt the way we talk to computers, so that we meet the interface more than halfway. And I think what's very common when people talk about voice is that line is shifting, so that it's the interface's job to understand us the way we talk and the way we interact. I would think even beyond the way we talk, the way we think of questions, the way we desire to get information and aggregate information together, and that the possibilities for what can be done is really growing exponentially right now. So the thing that I started learning as we started doing this was, given the technology that's available, we can really start thinking about what are the core problems we're trying to solve for people, and not necessarily how can we adapt people to our current capabilities. So if somebody needs to learn how to cook or wants to get in shape or basically do anything, how can we apply technology in a way that it gives them the information exactly the way they need to know it, and understand them in the way they think and talk, and then gets out of their way. It's a shift for us away from continuous engagement to just enough engagement to fulfill what the user needs, and then getting out of their way so they can get on with their lives.
What kind of engagement are you seeing? I know that, fair enough, if someone just wants a recipe or some ingredients, then that could be a fairly quick interaction. And if you're not necessarily concerned with engagement on these platforms, then that's a decent interaction. But presumably, and I don't know if this is the case, but with live broadcasting, one could only assume that the engagement and the dwell time would be significantly longer than any other experience. Is that the case?
We've done a lot of experimentation with live broadcast in terms of length of engagement. We find our broadcasts generally tend to run between 15 minutes and 35 minutes. I think that's about the average, depending on how complicated the demonstration is. And we find that's about the upper limit of what somebody will want to process in a single session, live session. The other complicating factor about live is that there's no pausing. In order to maintain that back and forth, we have to maintain continuous live. So we have to make sure that we're pacing our live broadcast in a way that people can not only process the information, but also cook along. And I think anything longer than, a half an hour becomes a problem for people because it starts to wear them down. But so for engaging with individual pieces of content, we find that that's about the right length. In terms of engaging with our, this new type of content as a whole, I can't really give out, numbers, but we're seeing that people are starting to catch on. And our biggest challenge right now is really explaining the value of taking live classes, of these step-by-step video classes, and using a subscription product as a cooking education platform. So I think a lot of this is really trying to edge people into the product as a whole. And then there's the additional challenge of getting people accustomed to using something like a smart screen on their kitchen counter to store recipes, to actually, make recipes and to ask questions, because there are some deeply ingrained habits around making food that people have developed over generations. And, those aren't going to change on a dime. So we have to be kind of very patient as people wade into using these technologies to do things that, that they may have developed habits over a lifetime or over generations.
So those are some really good, people challenges and consumer behavior changing challenges. But there's also some technical challenges as well, isn't there? And obviously you're working on stuff with Amazon. I don't expect you to kind of reveal the grand master plan, so to speak, or the roadmap as such. But some obvious things that come straight to mind is that there's a live broadcast, and that's essentially a feed. And in order for them to make some kind of conversation happen, you need to be able to interrupt that feed, ask a question, and then resume the feed where it left off, or even a little bit later on, because the live broadcast is still live and happening while you're asking the question, sort of thing. So I'm assuming that's one of the things that you're looking at trying to solve, is how do you interrupt a live session and then return back to where you left off and stuff like that.
Right, absolutely, and kind of measuring through user testing what the user expectation of what would happen when the user asks a question using their voice during a live presentation, and also doing a ton of user testing around what kind of questions would a user ask using voice, and how would that be different from how they would ask the question in a chat interface, where they could actually be listening to the class as it's going on and entering the question via keyboard. Right now we could do that live interaction, considering the fact that we're multimodal. You can be watching the class on an Echo Show, and if you have a question, you could go over to the app and type in the question. And that gives you that uninterrupted back and forth. But we'd have to do a lot of experimentation and A/B testing around what the optimal experience for making sure you can ask a question of a class without actually interrupting your ability to follow along.
Interesting conundrum, that. So what kind of team have you got working over there then? Have you got a full team that's working on all of this full time, and Amazon's working on their side? So have you got a lot of designers and developers, engineers and things like that, user researchers and stuff like that, or do you lean on Amazon for some of the lifting?
Nope, we have a full team here, and one of the interesting things that's happening here at Discovery right now is for for the first 3 years that our emerging platforms team has been in place, it's been fairly siloed, kind of like an R&D team. Now that we're integrated fully into this product for Food Network Kitchen, we're now shifting that so that our engineering team is basically it has pride of place amongst our mobile and web and connected services team as well, in both the engineering and as well as the product and design. So we're beginning to fully integrate conversational and multimodal design into our design practice as well as our product and engineering practice.
It's pretty advanced stuff. Not many companies are along that far along that journey. But having said that, it's taken 4 years to get to that point. It's taken a lot of experimentation and waiting for the right opportunity to fully integrate our learnings and our partnership into larger products. It hasn't been until this product that the mobile connected TV and web teams have really started to integrate together to build out a single integrated product. So there's been a lot of shifting around, not just within our voice multimodal teams, but within the way we're building out digital products across all of our platforms.
How do you see your team growing over the next year?
So right now we have a team in New York. So we have a full engineering team in New York. We're building out another team in Seattle area in Bellevue. Discovery has a growing office for engineering out in Bellevue right now. We're looking to have up to, we have a bunch of developers now there, and we're hiring furiously out there across all of our teams. We are looking at some of the other brands very aggressively for these kind of multi-platform ambient experiences. And so we are expanding the team out in Bellevue as well, and we'll probably get a full squad in terms of having design and product there as well. So, and then there are also teams for some of the other brands that are just starting up for brands like Eurosport and Motor Trend.
Exciting times. Is it available in the UK, in Europe, or is it just in America at the moment?
We have a team out in London as well, who is working on Eurosport.
Right.
And I believe some of the Motor Trend teams out in Europe.
And the Food Network, the skill and the platform, is that available over this way?
Food Network is US only at the moment. Mm-hmm. Back when we were Scripps Network was almost exclusively a US only set of brands. But now that we're part of Discovery, which is an international, the Discovery brands are all international, we are closely looking at moving Food Network, HGTV, and Travel Channel out to other countries. So I would not be surprised if we are available in other countries reasonably soon.
Cool. Looking forward to that. Dustin, any final thoughts or final questions for Tim?
I don't think so. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Tim.
Yeah, thank you too. It's been great. I appreciate it. For
those in America, how can they try out the Food Network experience? And then for those across the world, how can they follow the stuff that you're up to and keep tabs on what's going on and learn a little bit more about what you're up to?
So you can in the US, you can get the Food Network app on iOS, Android, Fire TV, and also you can link your Food Network account on Echo Show and get the experience there as well. If you want to follow me or my random ramblings on Twitter, I am at Tim McElreath. And if you attend any of the major voice events, you'll be more likely than not to bump into me there.
Cool. Tim, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully we'll meet in person again sometime soon. But until then, thank you so much for joining us. It's been absolutely fantastic.
All right. Thank you very much. It's been great.
Cheers. Thank you, Tim, for joining us. Thank you, Dustin, as always. That was an immense episode. This is an example of the future of smart displays. Live broadcasted content straight through your smart display that you can interact with being able to ask questions, have those questions fed to the chef, and have the chef read the answers to those questions back, live, interactive video is what it's all about. And this will push the Alexa platform to the next level, and then it opens up opportunities for all kinds of other live broadcasting, music events. I can imagine comedy shows being played live through Alexa. So this technology advancement is really, really important. Thank you, Tim, for championing this and for innovating and for pushing things forward. And shout out to Amazon for working with the Food Network on this to create the technology to make this happen. I'm looking forward to seeing the results of this when it happens. As I said, Tim, thank you very much. Dustin, thank you also. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for listening. Until next time, see you later.